Cosmic Contact and the Evolution of Humanity. Paul Nugent on the Aetherius Society and Mire. Ready to explore the mysteries of the universe and humanity's place within it? Join us as we welcome Paul Nugent, International Director of the Aetherius Society and author of Mire, a spiritual journey into cosmic truth and the dawning of a new world. We'll discover Paul's journey into the Aetherius Society and his close connection with its founder, Dr. George King, the profound cosmic teachings and missions of the Aetherius Society, which include the concept of contact with higher intelligences, and the timeless odyssey of humanity's evolution through higher and lower dimensions of reality. Prepare for a mind-expanding conversation that challenges your understanding of the universe and our spiritual potential. Welcome to the Wellness Driven Life Show, where you're about to go on a wellness-driven ride. Welcome to the show, everyone. Let me share a little bit about the incredible guest that we have with us today. Paul Nugent is the International Director of the Aetherius Society and the author of Mire, a spiritual journey into cosmic truth and the dawning of a new world. A close disciple of Dr. George King, he is dedicated to sharing the Society's profound cosmic teachings about humanity's evolution and our connection to the universe. I am so pleased to help welcome to our stage today, Paul Nugent. Welcome.
Thank you very much, April. It's a great pleasure to join you on the Wellness Driven Life Show.
Thank you. It has been an exciting venture into the ongoings until you come on this show, because my husband and I have sat together. It's a new thing that we love to do, is we like to sit together, read together in the evenings. And your book just so happened to be one that intrigued us enough to do so. So this is going to be a fun conversation, and let's get started by sharing a little bit more about you so the audience can get to know you more.
Well, thank you. Very, very briefly, you can probably tell from my accent that I'm not American, I'm English. I was born in England in a place called Cambridge, well-known place, University City, in 1958. Grew up in the Anglican Church without any sort of strong religious leaning. And then after sort of going through college, without any sort of clear idea as to what I really wanted to do with my life, but needing to do something, I wound up in the wine trade in London in the early 1980s. And it was around that time that I won't say I had a spiritual crisis, but it sort of increasingly dawned upon me that there had to be more to life, to my own life, than just having this career, getting married, having a mortgage and all of those things. And I didn't know what to do, but having been raised, as I say, in the Anglican Church, I read the four Gospels. It was the only, religious spiritual book that I had. And it was, I'd never sort of thought of anything else. And I read those four Gospels, and they had a very strong effect upon me, because I recognized that here was someone, obviously, Jesus Christ, who I would say rightfully understood how we should all be living, our lives. And at the same time, I was concerned about the state of the world. And I'd say I was probably mainly concerned because the world evidently was not living as Christ had demonstrated and taught. So anyway, I became quite active at a church in London, in a place called Trafalgar Square, a famous church called St. Martin in the Fields, taking care of homeless people. But meanwhile, my boss in the wine trade was not only was he a master of wine, but he was a wonderful mentor in a sort of broader context. And he himself was studying Eastern philosophy at a school in London that he introduced me to. And there I was came across concepts such as karma and reincarnation. And they both seemed, as true as the teachings that, Christ gave in the Gospels. And so that sort of had an influence on me. And then his secretary had been to a place in the north of Scotland called Findhorn, which had developed this sort of world famous garden through communication with the nature spirits. And so that introduced me to that sort of concept, what is known in the East as divas. And she also was a member of the Aetherius Society, which I'd not heard of, where they went literally a lot further and believed in the existence of extraterrestrial life, and that the founder of that organization, a man called Dr. George King, as a master of yoga, was in contact with these extraterrestrial intelligences existing on higher frequencies of dimension, who had communicated through him literally since 1954. I came across the Aetherius Society in the sort of mid-1980s, to give you some context. And anyway, I listened to these transmissions, and they resonated, with that same hallmark of truth that I'd encountered in the Gospels and, in my study of Eastern philosophy. And so I took it all. I took it all further. And in 1989, I came over to the United States on a 3-week visit to visit Dr. King, hopefully to meet him at the American headquarters in Hollywood, California. I did meet him, and it was during that 3-week stay that I was invited, or asked anyway, if I would like to actually move on a permanent basis to the American headquarters. And the short answer to that is that I said yes, and I did the following year.
And here you are still, correct?
And here I am still, absolutely.
Yes.
And as I was saying just the other day, the reason that I am still totally with the Aetherius Society, why I've never looked back, is because of not only, I would say, the truth, the profundity of these communications that have been made through Dr. George King, the existence of extraterrestrial life, but its profound implications for humanity. I think, as I see it, and as many people see it, our world is somewhat lost, or is in crisis. I think we've lost that fundamental understanding of why we're here. What an incredible, remarkable experience we're all having. Why? What's it all about? Surely it has some far greater, beautiful purpose, divine purpose even. And I believe certainly that it does. And the teachings that Dr. George King has either brought through or else given as a master of yoga, I think answer those questions in a magnificent way.
Paul, I find it fascinating with, your story, with many other people who have really gone on this spiritual journey of wanting to understand. So you disclose that you really started getting influenced by these different religious contexts, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
the Buddhist aspect, the Christianity aspect, and more of that nature piece. And all of this is coming together in this emergence of maybe what the Aetherius Society brings to the forefront. And I also really have this incredible respect and regard for those who really spoke up and out and highlighted higher intelligences, when really just now it's coming to the surface that, oh yeah, actually, yes, there's proof, and now it's out in the open. But it was such a delicate time in history for centuries that it wasn't that way.
No, it wasn't at all. For some, strange reason. There's been a tremendous secrecy around the whole concept of what used to be called flying saucers or UFOs, what are now called UAPs, as in unidentified anomalous phenomena, because it's not just aerial phenomena. And the fact that it sort of has entered or is at least on the fringe of the mainstream is because key personnel, by which I mean military personnel, particularly in the United States and others in the intelligence community, people with very senior responsibilities. I'm talking about people who've been in command of military bases that have got nuclear weapons, have all had experiences that really can only be interpreted as extraterrestrial or not of this earth.
Right.
And it's something that increasingly cannot, easily be covered up or disguised or dismissed as a flock of birds or a weather balloon, as it always used to be. And I think, again, looking at this, I guess, from a sort of more spiritual context, as I said earlier, as far as I'm concerned, humanity is in crisis. Our planet is in crisis, and we need a far greater vision and understanding of our place. And extraterrestrial life does exist. It's actually far more sort of absurd and ridiculous to think that in the vastness of creation, there is only, human life on this tiny planet, in this tiny solar system, within this galaxy amongst billions of other galaxies. No, we're part of something that is divine, that is cosmic. And I think more than anything, it will sort of radically change essentially everything in terms of how we are living on this world. But in saying that, I think, the sort of obvious answer as to why there has been so much government secrecy about it is because it threatens the whole sort of status quo and the so-called power base of society. On which note, there was a very good sighting made by the Royal Air Force during the Second World War. And it was immediately classified by the Prime Minister Winston Churchill together with Dwight Eisenhower, because in Churchill's words, it would cause disbelief in the church and mass panic amongst the people. And I think that's sort of been the prevailing, rather ignorant and I would say wrong, or maybe it was right at the time. But I think, in that sense, I think that these so-called extraterrestrials, we call them cosmic masters, are being incredibly subtle. I think that, as far as I'm concerned, if you're familiar with the whole, with crop circles, that clearly, are not, some are, but most were not being made by two drunken men with a plank of wood. You can't do that in the matter of a few seconds in pitch dark overnight, incredible, without any kind of errors.
And in numerous locations around the globe.
Right. And I think it was it should have been a prompting for humanity to sort of question, what is this? Who's doing this? And they're very beautiful and tremendously inspiring to encounter these crop circles. And I think now with these UAPs, it's probably a very poor way of putting it, but like boiling the frog in the pot, gradually the heat is getting turned up to allow us to sort of assimilate her without us being utterly frightened. Because I think that there is the danger in that if it was to be very obvious and overt, we could very easily, go into lawlessness and rioting and looting and killings and shootings and literally anarchy, and the whole system falls apart. So, as I say, I think they're being very clever or subtle in their gradual approach for us to sort of start scratching our heads and wondering, maybe there is something out there.
I think it has to be. Just like your point about, back when there was the hierarchy stating that we cannot let this be exposed because there's going to be mass chaos and it's going to have people questioning the church. Well, if anything were to be that extreme at that time, that's exactly what it would do. And so I think that in a beautiful fashion, it has been brought to the surface delicately in this slow manner, intelligently.
Yes.
I may say, even though so us as humans, it's so easy to feel impatient, with the rest of the world. Why won't the rest of the world catch up? Because I know this to be truth, right? And yet, if the world isn't ready and they have to do it in their own time, I think of that as an individual, as a human, right? We each have our own soul's journey, let's say.
Right.
And so if I am not ready to have a greater understanding of something because I haven't experienced this thing in order to really deeply understand, this new concept, that's kind of how it is. And maybe us as a species, us as a collective, it was not yet ready. But I believe that we're merging into that. What
It's
do you
going
think?
to be the biggest shock and change in the whole evolution of the human race. Although in saying that, we qualify that, I suppose. I mean, we do believe in the Aetherius Society, in a far from being alone, but that we have had previous civilizations, the most recent of which was Atlantis, seemingly several 100,000 years ago, and before that another civilization called Mire, both of which we destroyed through the intense misuse of atomic power. And on that note, that's when flying saucers were once again started to be seen during the Second World War. I mentioned that sighting by the Royal Air Force. And later, or right afterwards, in the Cold War, I suppose that was the height of sightings. It's when the word flying saucer was coined. And it was because, once again, humanity had learned how to split the atom and develop atom bombs. And later in the Cold War, we developed hydrogen bombs, far more powerful. And we've been there before in previous civilizations. No doubt, extraterrestrials or more evolved beings than ourselves were also there in the latter days of Atlantis, and presumably the same in the latter days of Lemuria, again to warn humanity. A big part of the message that was delivered through Dr. George King, certainly in the late 1950s, early 1960s, was warning us about that journey we were on in terms of the atomic journey and the dangers, because it didn't just threaten ourselves, it threatened, well, even more importantly, it threatened the Mother Earth. I mean, in that, you were rightly saying at the beginning that we embrace, Eastern philosophy or spiritual philosophy, Western philosophy, and sort of nature spirits, or it's sort of almost indigenous spirituality. But we recognize that the Mother Earth is a living intelligence. And on that note, but so is everything. Everything is alive. Everything has consciousness. Everything came from that thing that we call God, for want of any other word or description. Over 13.8 billion years ago. But as astronomers are now realizing with the James Webb Space Telescope, well, hang on, what was before that?
Right. There's just more and more.
There's more and more. I mean, we are on this incredible evolutionary journey. We would say, again, not exclusively by any means, that we're going back to God. We're in this journey of going back to God, and it only gets more and more incredible and fantastic in a sort of, sense of sort of ecstatic bliss. And consciousness and awareness. I mean, again, we would argue, or we're told, that we're here on Earth to attain enlightenment, and beyond that, cosmic consciousness, which was, is the ultimate goal of yoga. Yoga being a Sanskrit word which means union, and in that state of cosmic consciousness, we become aware. We're made aware that everything is interconnected. There literally is only oneness, and we are that oneness. We are part of that oneness. And a consequence of that realization, as I say, is a state of bliss.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't end.
That's not a bad consequence. I wouldn't think.
Not in the slightest, but it goes. I mean, we're recording this just after Easter. Of course, the Easter, apart from the sort of crucifixion of Christ, but is more important is the resurrection or the ascension. And again, our understanding in the Aetherius Society is that is the heritage of all of us. It doesn't end with what the Buddhists termed nirvana, or that state of cosmic consciousness. I would argue, in fact, that cosmic consciousness actually is not the end, it's the beginning. Life really only begins with cosmic consciousness. And beyond that, we go on to other stages of evolution and consciousness, actually on other planets within our solar system. And ultimately, beyond that. But I mean, that's getting too far ahead of ourselves.
Well, Paul, this is an incredible conversation already, and we'll move into our first commercial. But when we get back, let's pick it back up, because I love it. I'm so intrigued already. So stay tuned.
I will.
Are you ready to take control of your ride to wellness? Rev up with Driven Living. Visit www.drivenliving.com and buckle up for a journey. Get exclusive access to our Wellness Driven Life Show guest portal, where you can dive deep into the minds of our esteemed guests. Sign up for our newsletter and get insider scoops on these distinguished personalities. It's like having a backstage pass to their life-changing wisdom. But that's not all. You'll also receive a free hug. You heard me right, a free hug. An enlightening ebook from the Driven Living team. Discover the science-backed benefits of hugging yourself. It's a fill-up for your wellness tank. Because at Driven Living, we believe in fueling your journey to wellness, both physically and psychologically. So what are you waiting for? Visit www.drivenliving.com today. Welcome back, everyone. Here with Paul Nugent, author of Mire. Now, Paul, am I saying all of that correctly?
You are indeed, April. In fact, you're one of the few people who has got it right, because it's confusing for a lot of people. Maya, M-A-Y-A, if I may hold the book up.
Yes, I'll hold mine up too.
Oh, well done. There you go. Snap. M-A-Y-A is the Sanskrit word for illusion. And M-I-R-E, Maya, as in the quagmire. And I like, obviously, to play on words.
Yes.
And it's just literally to do with the sort of quagmire of illusion within which, we currently exist. We don't have enlightenment. We're still fighting and killing each other. We're destroying things. We've got sort of,
long way to go.
Fundamentally wrong. And I'd say, coming back to a wellness-driven life, if I may, it's terribly important to have a very clear understanding of of our purpose or life. And I think, and fundamentally, I would say that is a spiritual understanding. And I'm not, trying to, I mean, that's a personal choice, but within that, there is the sort of golden rule, again, very much Christian teaching, and or Buddhist teaching. I mean, and that is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I think that we can all coexist with we don't all have to believe exactly the same thing. Although in saying that, I do think that humanity is on the verge of coming into a far greater cosmic awareness.
You want to share a little bit about that, and I know that we're jumping kind of into that, and there's some things that I'd really like to highlight, especially within your book, because it talks about, when we talk about higher frequencies and the frequencies of things, that everything is energy, and how the founder of this incredible should I call it a new religion? What would I?
Well, it's new religious thought for sure. Yes, the
religious thought.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but the idea of tapping into certain frequencies with Mother Earth, giving off the healing energies of, and watching documentaries on you guys, and really going within that heart energy center, emitting healing aspects in certain areas of the world. Now that's not necessarily a new concept, but it certainly is emerging more and more. We've got the Heart Math Institute that's done profound research and studies on that, as well as now going into the study and research on trees, which is life or Mother Earth, maybe. And so share a little bit about that, if you would.
Well, as I said earlier on, I mean, we recognize that the Earth has consciousness, is an extremely advanced intelligence, and with the exception of indigenous people, certainly Western civilization has largely taken the Earth utterly and entirely for granted. We think that we can do whatever we like, we can pollute and trash however we like, without any thought of sort of repayment or appreciation and thankfulness to the planetary logos. You see, essentially, the Earth is giving us the opportunity to have experience, which is the fundamental purpose of life, is to gain experience so that we can evolve. We're here to evolve. The Earth has given us that platform, and yet it's very necessary in a karmic sense to give back as we receive. It's just a sort of universal law. And
law of reciprocity.
Was incredibly aware of that, that humanity is just sort of takes from the Mother Earth, goes about, testing and exploding atom bombs and hydrogen bombs, blocking rivers, whatever we choose and wish to do, without any form of repayment. And so one of the missions that he came up with, we call it a cosmic mission, something called Operation Sunbeam, which is a means whereby humanity can give a token of thankfulness back to the Mother Earth. It's difficult to talk about Operation Sunbeam in a short period of time without sort of, looking at what lies behind it.
Well, you could share the overall concept of it.
The overall, you see, coming back, I suppose, to yoga, one thing that we all have are chakras running up, primarily the main ones running up and down the spinal column, or psychic, in the Western term is psychic centers, through which energy flows. And just as we have psychic centers, so does the Mother Earth. And it's through the chakras that, as I say, this subtle energy flows. And what Operation Sunbeam does is it utilizes several of the psychic centers of the Mother Earth. And through these, a tremendous infusion of what we call, for want of another term, spiritual energy is given to the logos of Earth. It's a portal, if you like, to the logos of the planet, through which energy can be sent. Two other psychic centers we have are in the palms of our hands. In fact, this is how we pray in the Aetherius Society, so that we can literally send the energy out while also keeping the heart center open. And it's through these psychic centers, as I say, that energy flows both out and also in. So Operation Sunbeam, which we've been performing in the Aetherius Society since 1966, is a means on behalf of humanity of giving a token of spiritual energy back to the Mother Earth. It's a very important karmic manipulation of saying thank you. It's a bit like a child that has only ever taken from its parents. It's not the best analogy.
No parents can relate to that, Paul.
But when the child realizes the love and all that the parent has given to the child, and the child, should the child turn around and actually say thank you, it's a profound moment. It's a profound change, and it's a change that humanity, through Operation Sunbeam, albeit it is a very small token, but it's an essential sort of karmic manipulation on behalf of the human race.
That is still taking place, correct? Operation.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Okay. So it's a continued practice. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
It's one of the things that the Aetherius Society performs.
Right.
The Aetherius Society is all about what's called karma yoga, or the yoga of service. We're here to be of service, whether it's to an individual, to humanity, and in the case of Operation Sunbeam, to the planet.
Beautifully said, by the way. I love how you made the reference of, the mother and the children. I'm sure it certainly resonates with many, many people. Paul, going back to this profound shift that we will be experiencing, what do you have to say about that? What is that you envision, or that you know of, that we can expect?
Well, again, I mean, wonderful question, April, but it's difficult to give a short answer. But even before, because to me there are two goalposts, and one of those goalposts is Maldek. Maldek is a planet we destroyed within the solar system. All that remains of Maldek is the asteroid belt, and there's increasing evidence as to why that was a planet that we destroyed over 18 million years ago. In the concept of oneness, we couldn't be taken out of creation. The only planet within this solar system that could take us was this Earth. That's how we came to sort of go through this reincarnatory process under strict sort of karmic limitation, eventually evolving into Lemuria, which we destroyed, again through the slow process of reincarnation, into the civilization of Atlantis, which we destroyed, again through the slow process of reincarnation, into our present-day civilization. The point being is that this can only continue for so long. The Mother Earth can only hold her own evolutionary journey back for so long. The other goalpost, since I gave you one, is Lania Care. Lania Care is a Hawaiian word. Most people have not heard of Lania Care. It's a beautiful Hawaiian word, which means immense heaven. And it's a super cluster of galaxies to which all life in this Milky Way, together with hundreds of thousands of other galaxies in our sector of the universe, are moving, believe it or not, at phenomenal and accelerating speed in this sort of divine cosmic dance, this movement of going back to God. That, in the grand scheme, is what is going on. We have held that back. Maldek should never have happened. It's your allegory of the Garden of Eden, if you like. We fell through because there is such a thing as free will, and through free will, that's what we did. We destroyed our world. And so, in terms of this present time and why it's so critical, the Mother Earth was given a tremendous infusion of energy. She was suffocating. Again, coming back to sort of out of the Cold War, there had been two major nuclear accidents, one at Kishtim in the Soviet Union, another one in England at a place called Windscale. Windscale. They changed the name. It's now called Sellafield. But that sent tremendous pollution into the atmosphere around Earth, and which Cosmic Masters helped to clean up. I mean, if you look into Chernobyl, there were hundreds of eyewitnesses saw craft around that accident right after it had happened. But anyway, the energies of Earth, this cosmic initiation that she received in 1964, those higher frequencies of energies are gradually being released, and it's having a quickening knock-on effect upon our whole civilization. So in terms of this, I guess the simple answer to your question, and I'm sorry to sort of be as complicated in my answer, but is that the energies are shifting, and we need to come into a greater sort of cosmic alignment with our own, as you mentioned earlier, our own soul, but our own higher consciousness, and sort of become, in that intuitive sense, more aware of these changes that are taking place, far bigger than politics, far bigger than anything in point of fact. This is the fundamental shift that is now happening, a heightening of energy vibration.
Far greater than what I'm liking to term more frequently is the construct of which we are all living in. Now, if anyone wants to learn more, because you do go into in-depth detail of so much historical aspects that really backs a lot of what you're saying. So if we're losing a little bit of the audience and understanding, I invite you to read his book, Mire. And I really enjoyed your book. And actually, Paul, what I enjoyed the most was actually the first section of the book that really entailed your personal journey. I found it fascinating, your spiritual evolution personally, and what drove you, and how you ventured off into a whole nother world, whole nother country, and followed your intuition and your heart and that guidance. And you dropped everything professionally and all of the things that would have led you into fortune and fame, let's say, right? That path that, there's that cork in the road where at some point we all have that decision to either follow the intuitive and the heart, or the maybe what may seem successful in some capacity,
in front of us,
right, by societal standards, right? And so, Paul, thank you so much for this incredible journey and being with us today. I would love for you to share with our audience, what are some of the things that you do on a regular basis, or what would you entice others? You shared briefly on it, to really tap into our inner self and our inner guidance, but what are some of the things that we can do to help us evolve individually?
That's a great question, April. And I think my first and my last answer to that would be a form of prayer that anybody can do. We have online services 6 days a week, called the 12 Blessings. The website for that is 12, as in 12, blessings.org. And this is a spiritual teaching and form of prayer we believe was given by Jesus on 12 consecutive Sundays in 1958 through Dr. George King. I mentioned at the beginning, I was a practicing Christian. I heard these 12 blessings as they were communicated through Dr. George King. We played them at our services. And I inherently knew that there was something utterly profound and true and pure about these 12 blessings. And as I say, it's also a form of sending out energy for the healing and the upliftment of humanity. So in terms of one thing that anybody can do, would be to either on their own practice this wonderful practice of the 12 blessings. You'll see me giving a video about how you can do that on that website, 12blessings.org. And otherwise joining our almost daily online 12 blessing services, all of which are published on that website.
Paul, can you find that through the Aetherius.org?
Yes, you will. Yes,
okay.
You will.
So we'll guide our listeners. Those of you who have been viewing, we've had it displayed on the screen throughout Aetherius.org. It'll also be in the description below for those of you listening. And again, Aetherius.org, and it's also in the description. Paul, you've been a fabulous guest on the Wellness Driven Life Show. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience today?
I don't think so. I mean, other than go to the Aetherius Society website, besides Mire, which Mire gives a general overview of the Aetherius Society, but there are a couple of other books that I would very much recommend. One is The 12 Blessings, which I just mentioned, and another is called The 9 Freedoms, which gives this sort of evolutionary journey that we're all on within the solar system. And both are very remarkable, profound teachings.
Yeah, I think that those would be beautiful additions to Mire because you don't really go into those within your own book. It's more of your own journey.
I don't go into detail.
Right. So I think that those would be very compatible. Paul, thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you, April, for your interest and for sharing this with your viewers. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. And thank you so much for being here, our audience, because without you, the show wouldn't be possible. So goodbye for now, and we will see you next time.
Goodbye.